Hello, welcome to the first AI Masterclass Artistic Intelligence. We are waiting for our colleagues to get online. And what to say, this is our first of a series of masterclass. We are inviting people from all over the world to teach us about AI technology, how they are using Midjourney, how they are using GPT model, and any other tools that can enhance our work. Uh, Today we will have a very close friend because we've been working per day. We've been working per almost 1 year creating a comic story, and his name is. There is noise in the room. Sorry for interrupting. So today we will be talking with Alan Dougans. He's a good friend. We are creating a series of comics all with AI, the tools, basically Midjourney and Stable Diffusion. We have him here live from his studio, and he will a little bit explain why is his process, how he's using this tool, and what he uses for. And you will see he will reveal his secrets and the secret sauce. He will show to us how he prompted Midjourney. Hello, Alan, are you there?
I certainly am, yes. Do I have control of the presentation yet? No. So while I'm waiting for, yeah, there we go. Okay, I've got it. Right, cool. Okay. Good morning, I think, Prague. It's evening here in sunny Western Australia. I'm coming to you from Perth in Western Australia, Perth being the most isolated capital city in the world, apparently. Right, I'm just making sure that I've got control here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, there you go. Beautiful image. Presentation by Alan Dougans, April 23. Well done, Alan. You got the date correct. Okay, so what am I going to take you through? I think as Ericsson explained, I'll give you a very brief, and I mean very brief, overview of who I am and what I do. Some examples of the work that I've done. I predominantly use, in fact, not predominantly, I would say I exclusively use Midjourney. I heard Ericsson mention Stable Diffusion, and there's a few others, DALI and others. I tend to stick exclusively to Midjourney. I prefer it. I'll then talk you through how I actually use Midjourney. As Ericsson put it, talk about some of the so-called secret sauce, and basically how I come up with some of the imagery that I do. I guess the main part that I'm looking forward to talking to you about is when I get into the fine art photography. Then I'll take you very quickly through some of the things that I use it for and what I do. Let's just move that on one. Now, I'm not going to talk through this, obviously. You guys will no doubt get either digital or hard copies. I don't know if people do hard copies anymore. Hard copies of the presentation, and there you can have a read at it. But basically, I'm probably the oldest in the room now, I would imagine, and I have just very recently retired, which allows me now to focus on some of these things. I am actually an engineer. I was trained as a civil engineer. And I've worked in that horrible, dirty oil and gas industry since the late 70s. The benefit of that is it means I've travelled the world, and basically my wife and family have travelled the world with me. We've now settled in Australia, as you can maybe tell by my accent. I'm actually Scottish, but I'd always been a frustrated artist. I really had been. I come from quite an interesting family background. My father was an amazing photographer. He was a beautiful artist and an amazing musician. Damn him. I picked up the photography side, and my middle brother, who Ericsson could tell you about, picked up the music side. He's actually quite a famous electronic musician. We've lived and worked all over the world, and you see a huge kind of Indian, I guess, influence coming out in a lot of my work. We lived in India for nearly 6 years, in fact, just over 6 years. There is quite a lag in getting some of these to move. Basically, I was going to now take you through, hold on, I'm just waiting for the next slide to come up. I was going to take you through some of the online presence. Here we go, the online presence that I have. Future Sight is the name that I've used for, gosh, a couple of decades, to be honest. It's just a name. But I have my own Future Sight Facebook page with lots of imagery on it. I've got my own Instagram site. I've got my own website, Future Sight Photography. I've obviously got my Midjourney site, and then, as we'll talk about later, I design clothing and things like that as well. How do I know Ericsson? From a collective that we have called Beyond the 10th. Some of the other things that I've done on site, I've won many online awards, as you can see. Both just for pure photography, the ones on the left-hand side there, and then the ones for some AI digital work. I've also exhibited my photography in many places. I think I did about 4 or 5 exhibitions in India, and I did several in Malaysia. I've published a couple of books, and then you can see my link tree there. One of my other loves, absolute loves, if not even my first love, excuse me, wife. One of my first loves is music, to be honest, and I do a lot of online mixes as well with certain people. Okay, how do I actually work? Come on, slide. Here we go. So photography is basically where I start with all my imagery. This keeps stopping, Fabio. Sorry, guys. I'm just waiting for the next slide to come up. I do a lot of work. I base everything on my photography. I have owned in the past Nikons, Canons. Nikons, Canons, etc. I now focus on Sony cameras. I think they're amazing. So I do all my photography with Sony cameras. I use Capture One Pro in my laptops for all control of my photography. I tend to use Photoshop probably more for access to third party, dodging and burning and some other kind of esoteric effects. Interestingly, Photoshop now actually has an AI plugin with stable diffusion in there. But I do probably most of my work, call it whatever you want, in Midjourney now, which exists in the Discord environment. Let's just quickly then have a look at some of my actual products from Midjourney. Hopefully that will come through in a minute. Yeah, okay. So I guess one of my favorite kind of images. So you'll find that I have two, probably more than that, but certainly two distinct types of imagery. One is based on my photography and how I take that to different levels, and the other stuff is based on really just the wanderings and the meanderings of my imagination. I'm very guilty for listening to a lot of podcasts about AI and grabbing some of the commentary from those podcasts and sticking that straight into Midjourney and then playing with the results. There you can immediately see some of my Indian kind of influences coming out. The other thing that I love, and Ericsson will attest to this, is space-time portals. I just have a fascination with portals into different dimensions, and I have a lot of imagery on in Midjourney on portals. I just love it. Another one that I quite like is this idea of having two images face to face, both considering different aspects of something. You can put in two different types of prompts, and you can then tell it to, I guess, kind of converse those two images. I say up there some recent examples of work in version 4 and version 5 for people that maybe aren't fully up to speed with Midjourney. They keep coming out with new versions as they update their entire bot and their algorithms. If you were to look back at some of the version 1 stuff, and that was only 9 months ago, it was really immature. Now version 5, it's actually quite astonishing what version 5 can do. Sorry, again, I'm just having problems getting this to move on. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Is that coming up? Sorry about this, folks. I don't know about you guys in Prague, but I'm getting a blank screen, unfortunately, now, so I'm not quite sure what you're saying. Oh, there we go. Okay. I guess being an engineer, again, a lot of the stuff that I like is reasonably technical. I love black and white, so you'll see a lot of my imagery and even some of the bizarre stuff coming out in black and white. And the whole concept of post-humanism, cybernetics, etc., fascinates me as well. I've read a lot about it. I listen to a lot of podcasts about it. And again, you can get Midjourney to do some really quite interesting and esoteric visualizations of that. If I move on again. Sorry, it seems to have stopped. I think what I'll start doing is pressing. There we go. Here we go. Another thing that I like doing is merging different photographs. One of my probably half dozen heroes, David Bowie. Well, unfortunately, I look at it, it actually looks as if he's got cross eyes. There still are some shortfalls in Midjourney. One of the big shortfalls used to be the number of fingers that it would put on people, but they seem to get that sorted. Some of the facial expressions still come out, but as I said, it's really only been running now for 9 months, and the advances in those 9 months are really quite astonishing. So both of these images that you can see just now are me taking probably 3 or 4 different images and then starting to merge them together and pushing them towards where I want to go. Trees. I've always had a fascination with trees and the structure of trees and the biological structure inside a tree. So you can see the influences on that image there. And to a certain extent, you can see some of the imagery on that the David Bowie one there as well. Again, some of my stuff. This is you now looking at what I was saying face to face and two sides of an image. This allows you to tell it that there's several things that you want to be talking about in the one image. And then it will try and merge them together. I'll show in a minute how I do some of these things. Architecture, well, that's what I wanted to be when I was younger. I wanted to be an architect because architecture seemed to me to be the perfect crossover between engineering, which I guess I knew I was good at, engineering and physics, but I loved art. But unfortunately, I never managed to pursue art. But architecture seemed to me to be the perfect way. But again, unfortunately, I never managed to pursue it, and I became a civil engineer and then a consulting engineer. But some of the architecture work that I do in terms of Midjourney, I love. Again, some more merging of imagery that I've done, and then one of my loves is dance. I did a lot of work in India with a girl who actually ran her own dance school. She was an ex-Bollywood dancer, and we did a lot of work in the Gurdwaras and things like that. One of the things that I forgot to mention earlier was I did get a chance probably about 10, 15 years ago to get involved in imagery. I was a VJ with an electronic band, and we used to play in weird and wonderful underground parties here in Perth. The most notorious was an underground cemetery that we played in, which was really quite strange, but great. And I did all the imagery there, live videos. So prompting and storytelling. So how does it actually work? Midjourney now uses what they call NLP, natural language processing. In other words, it prefers if you actually talk to it rather than just giving it keywords. When it started 9 months ago, you would literally just give it words, and it would attempt to find those words and try and understand those words. Now you can actually talk to it, and then it'll pull that aside, and then it will try and create an image for you. I've put a sentence in here that just says a cybernetic humanoid, blah, 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 retro-futuristic dystopian city, wearing headphones, etc., etc. Not exactly what I wanted, so I then tried to cut it down. I then also took an image that I had done maybe several weeks beforehand, and I thought, right, that's more what I want to try and see, but I do want it on somebody that's walking through an old city. So I really want to try and blend both of these. So you can. There's several ways in Midjourney that you can do that. You can either load up both images. You can use a new command called blend. There's a raft of different ways that you can do it. Again, it's getting closer to the image that I kind of had in my head. So I then tried playing about with the actual sentence that I put in, and played about with the order of some of the words, and that's more what I was looking for. Quite a cool image. You'll see later on that Ericsson and I, along with, as I said, a fairly large collective, work on graphic novels, comic books, graphic novels, call them what you want. I also tend to do a lot of posting of kind of smaller, graphically represented stories on Facebook as well. Right, here we go. Let's just move that on one. Now, Ericsson mentioned at the outset secret sauce. Okay, I have a whole cupboard of secret sauces, shall we say, and they're called preferred set lists. What is a preferred set list? So a preferred set list is really, it ensures that you get a consistent style. It ensures that you've got basically more control over how you want the image to be. So what you do is you set up inside Midjourney a preferred set list, and basically it's basically just a longer prompt. So there's two there, sci-fi and surrealism, two of my I guess kind of favorite sauces, I guess two of my favorite kind of prompts. And basically what you've done is you've told Midjourney that you want to have a long prompt that has industrial surrealism, surreal digital illustration, dreamlike, otherworldly, etc., etc., etc. So when you actually put your either your photograph in or just your idea, you can then tell it, now go and access my preferred set and apply a sci-fi look to it, apply a surrealism to it. And there's another one, surreal 2. There's the half. So there's the half that I was talking about. So two sides of the image, and again, industrial surrealism, one of my kind of favorite, I guess, art styles, fog and fire, dreamlike, otherworldly. So despite what I was saying earlier, you still put these in at the end of the prompt. You would start the prompt off with a sentence, Ericsson walking down a street, dash, dash, surreal. So it would give me an image of somebody walking down a street, but then it would apply all the kind of surreal effects, shall we say, to that image. You can apply one, you can apply many. There's actually very recently a thing coming out that allows you to put in 3 or 4 of them, and it'll go away and it'll do all 3 or 4 for you, and then come back and show you all the different ways that you can do it. Gives you real good ultimate control, and you can easily change these things. If you don't actually like the way it's doing it, you can move it about and change it, add other words in, take words out, and then reset it. Yeah, it's a game changer from the earlier versions that we had. There's actually somebody online has written a chat GPT script that will allow you to generate these things and then throw it into Discord, into Midjourney, and run from there. And you can actually get chat GPT to have a look at different art styles. I was doing some based on Australian Aboriginal art the other night, and I thought I would have to put in all the different kind of combinations, but ChatGPT did it for me and generated some of these preferred set prompts, which I put in and then played with. Unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to add them to this presentation, but never mind, maybe next time. If the next screen would come up. Well, there's another one, abstract. There's another one, abstract, has come up at the bottom. That includes one of my favourite artists, Magritte. Maybe while I'm waiting for the next slide to come up, that raises an interesting subject. Midjourney has basically been, as they all have, has basically been trained exactly the same way as maybe some of you guys have been to art school, trained in exactly the same way, reading and understanding and digesting the masters, digesting the current artists, etc., etc. It's worth saying at this point that Midjourney does not have a database of images. Now, a lot of people just think, and especially the detractors, think that Midjourney is just cutting and pasting from a billion images. No, it's not. It has learnt those images. It understands, I don't know, what an apple is, what a dog is, what a dinosaur is, what a pterodactyl is. It also understands emotions, anger, happiness, sadness. It understands colours and it understands ambience. It understands all these things, and these are all built into the GANs, the generative adversarial networks that it actually runs on. But it does recognise artists and photographers, and I assume musician and sculptors names. So when we all started off about 6 months ago, a lot of people would use artists' names, and it would then go away and it would create the artworks in the style of, I don't know, Magritte, as I've got there. But there was a big outcry. You're stealing our art, you're etc., etc. Is it, I mean, if I'm teaching my grandson something, am I stealing by showing him books of Peter Morbacher or something like that. No, I don't think I am stealing. He's learning. It's the same with these AIs. They're learning. Consider them the babies of the future, perhaps. I don't know. This particular one is only 9 months old. It's probably just getting to the crawling stage. Heaven help us when it gets to the toddler stage and the teenager stage, but that's basically what it's doing. You can see, I think, on the screen there now, maybe another, I don't know, a couple of dozen of the preferred set lists that I've got. I mean, since then I've probably added about another 20, I would suggest, but very, very useful, and that's really how you manage to keep the continuity of your work, if indeed you want to keep the continuity. You know, some people might not want to keep the continuity. So, being Scottish, I had to have something Scottish up here. Use of preferred set list. So if I just took a standard prompt and I said, imagine a Scottish superhero biomech wearing a tartan kilt and holding an energy ball. Cool. That's what it gives me. I then add one of my preferred sets, character. It immediately changes it. You can see that the whole image takes on a characterization, and it moves it forward. I could have added anything in there. I could have added surreal. I could have added, I don't know, noir. I could have added black and white. Excuse me. But it just shows you how you can move from that and then very easily move across to here. You can then rerun it. Come on, come up, please. And you can, if you really want, get something quite comedic. I take that as an insult, so I'll get rid of that. And you can get something quite grand, shall we say, if you really wanted. Now these are all done in version 5, the latest version. Version 5 has become, or can be, a lot more photorealistic than the previous versions. The previous versions were very arty, shall we say. Version 5 is a lot more kind of realistic, to the point that they've actually got, they nearly got into trouble. I mean, I'm sure everybody saw the online images of Donald Trump being chucked in jail with his orange suit on, or the Pope wearing his white puffy ski jacket, both of which were actually created in Midjourney, and the managing director, I'm not quite sure what his title is, David Holtz, was a little bit upset about that. Obviously, it's not what he wants the site to be capable of, so has put in, with his own AIs, a lot more scrutiny on what people are doing. So if I go back to that one that I had, the fearsome warrior, you see the Scotsman in me is really coming out here now. But I can then add science fantasy to it. Now, science fantasy, as you can see, so this bit in the middle is how it actually resolves itself as the prompt. So you can see maybe the first couple of lines are just what I've put in. There's a couple of images that I've put in as well for it to reference. And then it has resolved the science fantasy into all this text here. And you can start to get some really pretty cool imagery. By changing science fantasy to, and hopefully the next slide will come up, by changing science fantasy to, come on, please, because this one's really cool. Here we go, to surrealism. So, I mean, starting off with exactly the same prompt, but then telling it, well, let's look at it more from a kind of surrealistic perspective. You can then start to get these kind of images. Interesting, maybe another interesting kind of side point here. I tend to find that it sparks my imagination when I'm using Midjourney. So you might not get exactly what you want, but you kind of look at it and you go, you know what, that's pretty cool. Let's go down this rabbit hole. And I can spend hours just playing with an image and changing it ever so slightly and moving it. And especially when, as I mentioned earlier, the kind of graphic novels that Ericsson and I and the other people in our team are doing. When you start playing with that, you know, between what you're thinking in your head, between the imagery that's coming up, it's guiding you down kind of routes. So you won't always get exactly what you want. I particularly don't want that. I want it to help me imagine and broaden my imagination. So if we have a look at, if we take that, then you would say to yourself, okay, how do I, what further could I do with that? So a fairly simplistic use of photography would be, and hopefully this will come up. Yeah, so there's a very ordinary photograph from my phone. Well, ordinary. We get some pretty impressive cloud formations here in WA. So that was about a month ago from my front garden. Stick that into Midjourney and tell it to play with the cloud formation, and you can get something even more fantastical. I'd be a bit frightened if I saw that in my front garden. And then tell it to, okay, well, take that and then maybe put that into some kind of alien dystopian landscape. Okay, well, that's looking pretty cool. Now, remember the imagery of the brave Scottish warrior. So start to pull that across. Come on. There we go. Start to pull that across, and you can start to blend these together. So you can then start to get some really interesting visuals. And then across here, then just uploading both of these. So you've got two ways you can do it. You can either use the blend command, which nobody's really kind of fully explained how it works. I mean, actually, online, somebody asked David Holtz, the MD of Midjourney, online last week, and he couldn't really explain how it works. It's actually quite interesting. It's not as if it just pulls two images together and plunks one on top of the other. It actually understands what it's been given, and it works with both images. I mean, that's pretty cool. Or you could upload both of those images and then just use both of those images as prompts, and you get a completely different output. Clever, really clever. While I'm waiting for the next image to, or the next slide to come up, it's just worth mentioning that certainly in my time, I think it's something like 4 o'clock every Thursday morning. I think it's midday in California. I'm not 100% sure. Midjourney do an online, what they call office hours, whereby David Holtz, the managing director, talks, believe it or not, for nearly 3 hours. It's amazing. He spends the first 15, 20 minutes just telling what the new developments are, and he's quite open about it. And then he fields questions, everything from how can I make a black cat through to some real deep philosophical and ethical questions about artificial intelligence. And he fields a lot live. It's actually quite astonishing. I can't imagine many MDs or CEOs of many companies actually wanting to do that in the first place and do it live. It's quite astonishing to listen to. Anyway, as I said, one of my loves is dance and kind of interpretive dance. What I did here was, believe it or not, I grabbed a screenshot from a video that Bjork did, who I saw a month ago. And I also created a kind of ghostly apparition in Midjourney, and then told it to start blending and playing with both of those together. And I came up with some really gorgeous looking, esoteric, ethereal dancers. Brilliant, fantastic. I then played with that so-called Scottish hero, and then I merged the whole lot together. And if that's not a cover for a graphic novel, I don't know what is. That I love that. I love that image. Moving on now. I'm actually conscious of the time. My favorite is black and white. I seem to keep saying my favorite, but I love black and white photography. So what I've done here is two of my photographs, one taken in the city centre of Perth, one taken down at the beach, and then just a kind of random ink splash splot that I saw somewhere on the web. I've then taken those three things and merged them together. Come on, come up with it for me, please. There we go. So you can actually see inside the prompt there, the blue bits are the actual hyperlinks back to these three images. And then this is my prompt. And again, I've just put in futuristic city on alien planet with very high winds and desert sandstorms. Bang. And then I've added one of my preferred sets, and I've immediately come up with that kind of imagery. I quite like that, but I prefer pure tonal black and white. So I played with it a bit further, and I eventually came up with these two images here, which again I love. If we move to the next one, I can explain that whole process a bit better, because this really is the area that I focus on and that I enjoy. And if you jump onto any of my Facebook or anywhere like that, you'll see a lot of kind of architecture coming up. So one of my favorite places in India was the Lotus Temple in Delhi. Really photogenic, beautiful place. And then another place that my wife and I went on holiday to, if it will come up, was the Sheraton in Huzhou in China. An amazing piece of architecture. Okay, both just begging to be mid-journeyed, if that's a word. So what did we do? So the first thing I did was I took the Lotus Temple. Well, actually, sorry, before I get into that, fine art, black and white fine art, I guess, is the kind of the division of photography that I really enjoy, and it's got quite specific rules to it, you know, kind of tonal black and white, God rays, that kind of carry on. So I set myself up a preferred set list, and I'll come to that in a minute and explain it to you, to look at that. So I then fed in, as it were, the Lotus Temple into Midjourney. One of the first images I got was that, and then this other second image. Now, you know, you'd be tempted to say, well, that's probably just a copy of somebody else's photograph. You try putting that into Google image search and you will not find it like that, exactly like that. You will not find it anywhere in the billion images that are on the web. This is it having created from that, and then from the prompt that I've given it, it has created new imagery. Frankly, it blows my mind. It really does, and that is the kind of preferred set that I'm using. So I'm talking about tonal black and white, matte painting, long exposure, pseudo infrared, soft tonal transitions, etc., etc. All of these are the kind of rules that are in the back of your mind if you are actually working in black and white fine art. It has taken all those things and it has used them in its creation of this. Now, likewise, I'm hoping this comes up. Likewise, the Sheraton Hotel, an amazing place to see. The horseshoe, some of them call it. So it's taken a wee bit of a liberty there. The engineer in me comes out and says, well, that's not how you would actually build it, but that's by the by. And then this image, and that to me is just, again, gorgeous. It's a photograph that I would be proud of if I managed to take something like that. But again, you can see that it has created this because that's not what the Sheraton looks like. So it's used all the kind of the imagery that it can see there, and it's used all the instructions that I've given it in the preferred set, and it has created that. That really is the two things that really is the area that I tend to focus on. That, and as I said earlier, the space-time portals and that kind of carry on. Let me then, because again I'm very mindful of the time, and that's 5:40. I'll show you some of the things that I use this for. So this is a couple of things that Ericsson and myself and the rest of the collective have been working on. We've actually published digitally so far. This one, The Conscience Vortex, a novel by Beyond the 10th. That's us, Beyond the 10th. What lies beyond the 10th? Brilliant, the 10th dimension. You can see some of the imagery that I've done here, and then actually probably given it away, but there's the final page from the graphic novel. I took a bit of a liberty there, and I created my character based on David Bowie's face. But what the hell? There you go. I tend to, unlike kind of traditional comics, I tend to do these one-page. Oops, that must come up. That's okay. I tend to do these one-page graphics. Another thing that I do, I create these weird and wacky T-shirts in Threadless. I'm beginning to realise that perhaps they're a wee bit esoteric because I'm not selling that many, but that's all right. I think I've bought more than anybody else, but they are. It's good fun. It really is good fun. And then the last thing that I actually do, and I'm hoping it'll, well, the second last thing, is I place a lot of this stuff up in Adobe Stock, and I sell maybe one or two a week. It's never going to break the bank, and it's never going to upset the tax man, but it's fun and it's interesting, and it's actually quite interesting to see what people buy. They don't just buy the standard photograph of a Santa Claus or something like that. They tend to like some of these more bizarre images, or at least that's what they're buying from me. But 80% of the time, to be honest, I just whack my imagery up on, and I hope this comes up on Facebook. Come on, please. And I just create these small stories, and I throw these up on Facebook and Tumblr and all sorts of places. I come up with an idea, maybe while sitting watching some terrible television with my wife at night, and I go on to Chat GPT, and we have a bit of a discussion, and then I come up with a short kind of story. I then go into, or I've probably already come up with some of the imagery in Midjourney, and I put these things up, and they get decent reactions. I have to say. I think. Oh no, actually, I've got one beautiful last slide. Sorry. My wife was a bit upset at me putting this up. It doesn't all have to be colourful and nice. I don't know if anyone knows who Chris Cunningham is. He did a lot of the early videos for Aphex Twin and people like that. But this is the kind of imagery that, yeah, might keep you awake at night, but I love. And me and my brother have produced a lot of this kind of stuff. I mean, how bizarre is that? You know, 6 fingers. Wow. Yeah, that'll keep you awake. And that will definitely keep you awake. Brilliant. I love it. I absolutely love it. Anyway, guys, that's me. Sorry, Fabio Ericsson, I've been 5 minutes longer than I promised I would be, but I'm happy to field any questions that anybody wants. Can't hear you, Ericsson.
No. Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you now, Matt. Yep.
Thank you very much, Alan. A very interesting presentation. I know your work, but there are many colleagues here who are watching your job for first time. and it's very cool what you're doing. Like, I have one question from myself. Like, you mentioned like blending, it gives you better results than when you are prompting with image. Why do you think is that? Is because the prompt you put after the pictures, or just how it solves the
Yeah.
algorithm?
So I think something that that you have to understand is Midjourney doesn't actually take your photograph on. It converts your photograph to text. And they have recently just released the describe function, but I won't talk about that just now. Blend, as far as I can see, has a look at both images, converts them to text, and then actually merges that text together. Now, I'm surmising because David Holtz, the MD of Midjourney, couldn't even explain it. I think it takes both of those texts together, and then it comes up with almost like a new story, as it were, and then gives you an image. Some of the images that Blend gives you are just, quite frankly, astonishing, beautiful, and they really sit and make you think. There is the odd time where you get, I don't know, what did I see the other day? I saw a camel's head on top of a teapot or something, but I don't know. Sometimes it goes a bit strange, but I would say about 75%, maybe 80% of the time, Blend works. When you simply just feed in the two images, I think it's looking at them independently, and I don't think its algorithms are actually considering both images and the balance between both images. Blend, to me anyway, appears to do a better job. And you can blend up to 4, I think it is, images.
Okay, thank you, Alan. We have a question here in the chat, like from Daniel Path. He is asking, how do you see the mixing of the real pictures with AI in the future development of this workflow? Do you think the most photographers will be using in the future, or is just in the experimental phase?
So that's a really interesting and a very topical question. God, I sound like a politician here. That's a very good question. No, that is actually a really cool question. I'm actually at the same time, and I think I promised yourself and Fabio I would send it when I'm finished. I'm actually putting together another presentation for the West Australian Professional Photographers Association in 4 weeks, I think it is. And one of their questions was, tell us about AI, tell us about AI in photography. And I thought, right, I should really have a look more closely what the pulse is of photographers online. And a bit like artists, there's quite a few pushing back, and there's quite a few partially embracing, and there's quite a lot fully embracing it. What do I think the future will be? I don't think you can ever stop people using a camera and taking photographs. I wouldn't want to stop people. I wouldn't want to stop myself using a camera and taking photographs. Midjourney, Stable Diffusion, DALL-E, all these things are just tools. Yeah, they don't create these things off their own back. If it was just sitting there and nobody did anything, it wouldn't create anything. Midjourney is a tool. Your camera is a tool. Your camera won't create photographs without you pressing the buttons and tweaking the dials. But the merging of your own photography, I've always said that when I go out with my camera, I can see things I can't get the camera to take. Do you know what I mean? I'll see lights, and I'll see shades, and I'll see shapes, and I can visualize images. Now, for years, I've tried to re-manipulate that in Photoshop, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. This is allowing me to take it to another level. It's also allowing me to have a look at places where I had been, but I can't get back to. Like, as I say, I lived in India for a while. I've got something like 0.5 terabyte of photographs from India. I can actually play with those and I can regenerate different memories and areas and places in India. But I know they're new, and then I can, look at them from a surreal point of view and so on and so forth. Longer term, I think it goes back. I see an analogy with music. I don't know if any of you guys remember when the synthesizer came along at first, in the kind of early 70s, maybe even late 60s. The actual musicians union in the UK demanded a strike of all musicians because they thought the synthesizer was going to take over and all musicians would become redundant. Well, how did that work out? I see this as being similar. Now, if your question was AI in the broader sense, and not just the generative AI that we're talking about here, but if you're talking about AI in the broader sense in terms of how it's encroaching on financial markets, the banking sector, pharmaceuticals, etc., that's a different ball game altogether. And I think the pace of development is fascinating, but perhaps a bit scary with things like GPT-4 now coming online. Did that answer the question, Ericsson?
Yes, we have another question here from the audience, because I didn't read it properly. So.
Yeah, can I actually just add to that question? In terms of the technology development of generative AI, is there anything new or anything in particular you're looking forward to in the future developments? I mean, any features that you particularly would love to have in the future available, either in Midjourney or in other tools?
Yeah, definitely. One of the areas, and it is often spoken about with the Midjourney guys, is in painting. So actually being able to not really just have to regenerate a complete image, but actually say, well, see that small part down the bottom right-hand corner? I just want you to change the ambience down there or move it round. Have a bit more control inside the actual image. And they understand that, and it's one of the things they are looking at. The other thing is outpainting. So being able to extend that image. Yeah, that's a beautiful image. Just now, if you were to do a square image and then say, well, I don't want it square, I want it maybe 16 by 9. All it literally does is it stretches it, and that just looks hideous. Footballs look like eggs. So what you really want to be able to do is outpainting and be able to say, well, I want to extend that bit, but I want to keep that bit and maybe extend it to the right hand side. That's one of the areas that I'm really interested in. The other developments that they themselves are excited about, that's the Midjourney people, is 3D. And that's one of the areas that they are really putting a lot of development time into, and then being able to create three-dimensional imagery in the same AI bot. Did that answer your question? Sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
We have another question from the chat. Hey, Alan, what do you advise to get consistency between image and characters? Are you using the commands like describe, or what do you advise people who wants to do consistency in the characters and the
Yeah, so what I've done, and I think I shared it on our Beyond the 10th chat, Ericsson, is I've actually now started creating these. So those preferred sets I was spoke about, I've created a couple of them with faces of people as images inside it, so that it's always looking at the same thing. So how can I explain that? I wish I had some imagery of that. If you do that, then version 5 will take the key characteristics of that face, and then you can make it smiling, laughing, looking up, looking down, different lights, turning, action shots, half body shots, full body shots, but it will hold that facial construction, as it were. So, for instance, the next graphic novel that we're working on, I have a key character called Zinc, and I've based him on that rather half-dead looking guitarist out the Rolling Stones, Keith Richards. Only because I think he's got a fascinating face, that's all. And I've put close-ups of his face into a couple of preferred sets, and then along with some of the character attributes that I have. But then I can say Zinc sitting in a dining room in a space station, and then put that preferred set in, and it will capture that face and put that face in, and then go from there. That way actually seems to work quite well. Other people, other software, like I think it's DALL-E or Stable Diffusion, you can actually train it on faces, and you can build your own models of faces. I must admit, I haven't tried that. Another one of our colleagues, Ericsson, has done that quite successfully. With Midjourney, I use the preferred set, and I use images inside the preferred set.
Thank you, Alan. We have one last question here. Is like, how fast do you finish your AI art, and what is your weekly process? And what is the new projects you are working now for the future?
Okay, so the main new project is a 5-book graphic novel that I was actually talking to Ericsson about last night. I've the other side of my brain actually writes these books. I don't know where that comes from, but I just tap into it, and we've actually created that. So we're working on that right just now. I tend to get diverted very easily. How much time do I spend? Let me try answering. I probably spend maybe a couple of hours a day on Midjourney. My wife used to think I was just kind of chatting to people on the phone, but she now understands what I'm doing, and I get dispensation to do it. She understands what we're doing. That's the beauty of working with Midjourney. You know, you're not processing locally, either on your phone or your laptop or your desktop. You know, you're sending the commands back to the GPUs in I think it's California predominantly. So I probably spend a couple of hours a day. I would think. I would say even after 9 months, I'm still learning. I've found something fascinating this afternoon. Projects is the 5-book graphic novel. What's that called? A pentology or something like that that we're working on. I have other kind of side projects as well. I do album covers for quite a few electronic musicians around the place. My brother's an electronic musician, and I've done quite a few album covers for him. I'll continue with my t-shirts, although I'm not that happy with the quality of threadless. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but I'm not. Adobe, I'll keep pushing things up. And yeah, and wherever else comes my way.
Thank you. Well, thanks, Alan. Thanks for the nice call, all the knowledge you share with us. We have all your tricks, tips and tricks. Also, you share with us your PPT that we can play with your prompts. And if there is something else you want to say to people before we go, because we're finishing.
I don't think so. I would strongly advocate people embrace AI and embrace generative AI, and you will very quickly find that it will take you in places that you perhaps in the back of your mind somewhere knew that existed, but it will take you there. It's fascinating. Also, a bit of news that you don't know, Ericsson. My wife and I are coming to the Prague in August. And we would on holiday, so we might try and pop in and have a coffee with you guys.
Yes, for sure. Thank you very much. Thank you again. And for the people online, this is recorded. We will send it, and we are preparing a series of this masterclass where we're inviting people from all over the world, New York, UK, Latin America. So stay tuned, and there will be more of this masterclass soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.